Okay, it is 7:32, and we will call this meeting to order. I first want to note, we can ask the question tonight, why is this night different from all other nights? Or we could say, why is this meeting different from all other meetings? And the answer is that the charter specifies that an annual meeting be held before March 15th every year, a community meeting where the budget is passed and tax rates are specified. And that's what will happen tonight. So May 15th is tomorrow. We are just making it, and let's begin. First, Keith, want to get up and tell us what's going to be happening? A little warming up in the next few days.
It doesn't feel like mid-May, does it?
No.
But we've got a mini heat wave on the way, and it'll be on the doorstep here over the weekend with temperatures well into the 90s. And as a matter of fact, there's a possibility that we could make a run at 100 degrees next week.
When? Next week?
Next week, Wednesday, Thursday time frame. But it's going to start to heat up here, especially on Sunday. And there's also going to be a touch of humidity. You'll notice that to go with the heat.
Okay.
We got a nice rain last night, didn't we, Jeff?
Yes,
Jeff
we did. And
after the
Keith
fire.
warned me about 45 seconds as I was outside that there's a storm coming, and lo and behold, 45 seconds later.
And I told everybody at the fire board meeting last night, we need to end here by 8:30 and get everybody out of here. So we took care of that business. And looking ahead to the Memorial weekend, doesn't look too good right now. Much cooler, and we could get quite a bit of rain Saturday through Monday time frame of the following weekend. Okay, so you've got the weather report, but one thing I wanted to mention here was to give a shout out to the election committee and the outstanding job that they did, especially getting the ballots from New Jersey. I think they were coming from Siberia, but they took care of business, and I think they should be commended for that. So for now, my time is up. I thank you for yours.
Thank you.
I'll be back in a few minutes with the committee report.
Good. Thank you, Keith.
You're welcome.
We have a couple of residents in attendance. And Andrew, I see you're there. We will count you as present. So any resident comments, questions, forecasts? Marty, your hand is up.
Hi, everyone. And I want to say a couple quick things. First, I'd like to return the compliment to Keith Allen, who helped the election committee untangle that royal mess when the hundreds of ballots didn't arrive on time. And Keith, the entire committee sends our thanks to you. And also, I want to thank Keith for the gorgeous weather on May 5th. It was about the prettiest day we've had yet this spring. So kudos. And a special thank you to Michael Silliman for the sidewalk project, and appreciate how well that's going. And a thank you also from the election committee last year and this year both for the increased visibility on the financial information. The committee, we've got a couple committee members here. I see Elizabeth Goldberg is on the Zoom as well. And the last year's election committee, this year's election committee, thought it would really help recruit candidates and increase participation in the election to be just, much more transparent and much more visible about the financial budget and reserves and all that. And so thank you from, I guess, last year's election committee as well as this year's for the financial information. I think the transmittal letter and all is the clarity this year is really very nice. A big improvement. And thank you. We appreciate that. So 3 thank yous, and I'm out for now. I'll see you later at the election committee report.
Elizabeth Goldberg, your hand is up.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening. I just have a question of order. I have a comment on the Stormwater Committee scope of work that you're going to be discussing later in the agenda, and whether there'll be an opportunity to make the comment then, or should I make it now?
We can wait and do it then. It'll be appropriate at that moment.
Okay,
at that
that's
point.
fine, as long as
Good,
there's an
okay.
opportunity to do so. All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, with that, let's get to the committee reports. Elizabeth, why don't you just stay where you are and talk about stormwater? The
Okay,
new stormwater committee.
well, right, and I'm sorry that that might have been my mistake. I titled the report Stormwater Task Force Report and was promptly reminded by our chair that we are now the interim committee. But I would guess just because I haven't received anything formal from the council yet saying what our status is, although it was mentioned in the last council meeting that the existing committee would, be asked to go forward until such time as the new committee was constituted. So anyway, I thought it was appropriate for us to just, put a parentheses at the end of the work that's been done under the task force. And so, right, so as it says, the final, as you all know, the final report and action plan were presented at the last council meeting, and we proposed this accompanying action plan with the idea of having some continuity to carry forward the ideas, have a way to carry them forward. And they included not only the larger gray infrastructure and ordinance amendments that will, take time and extra resources to implement, but also other community-based actions that can be started without delay to sort of raise consciousness and awareness and share best practices and examples from other jurisdictions and opportunities and this sort of thing. So sort of the outreach and public awareness activities could go forward without delay. So the committee was approved by the council at the last meeting, that there be a new stormwater committee that would have a lifespan of about 5 years, I think you said, and that you were going to develop a scope of work for that committee immediately, and then put out a call for volunteers. So I think you're in the midst of that. You've got the scope of work, which you did send around. And yes, we do have a few questions on that, just to make sure we are on the same wavelength. Next steps we see until the new committee is appointed and up and running, the interim task force or new committee, temporary committee plans to keep residents informed, involved in this effort. And we thought it would be appropriate to start by speaking with residents who had previously expressed concerns about stormwater related to their property and actually opened up their property to us to do the various.
Of course, absolutely. Wait a minute, let me, because you know what?
And let's see, what else? And outlining, putting a little bit more meat on the bones of a green infrastructure education plan and then sharing information. One idea that came out was to have sort of like a stormwater minute, which I thought was an interesting idea. So it was, whenever there's a new idea, this could go into a weekly wrap up, but it might also just go on the community listserv, but a way of staying in touch with residents on an ongoing basis. And that the topic of it would change depending on what's the interesting idea that we want to share. Also, this idea about community outreach plan. We know there are initiatives that are going on in municipalities that would be good to follow their success or otherwise and see what happens, learn from them. And also, there was one really nice case. This had to do with, that might be very relevant for the high priority area at the dead end of Delfeld, which is considered a, I can't remember the exact word for it. It's not a great infrastructure project per se. It's more of a sort of like a reservoir watershed. I mean, the waters that flow from that, it falls under a particular funding line that is available for those, exactly those kinds of projects. And one of the neighboring jurisdictions has actually had experience applying for a grant, being successful and going through, the implementation. And they volunteered to work with Martin's Additions to share and actually help. So that's an example. So that's basically the update. Like I said, our concern is we want to we would like to be sure that the funding that was requested in the budget in our action plan, there was a request for some funds for this fiscal year 26, that does remain, even though the scope of work reference on the budget is rather vague about how the money would be, that it would need to be requested on a case-by-case basis. But our understanding was that it was there, it was secured, and it was just waiting to be requested. So maybe when the time is appropriate, you could address that aspect of the funding. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Marty, you want to say more about elections?
Yes, thank you. But I'd like to pick up on Elizabeth's stormwater report first, and then go to the election committee report. Thank you. On the stormwater report, I'm wondering, this is a council question. I think the stormwater task force and now committee has just been super. But my question for the council is not just Elizabeth's about funding for this next fiscal year. What's the process of approving that so that that doesn't become a delaying factor here? So one question was about the funding process, and for this coming year. For the second question was about, is the council planning at this meeting or the June meeting to look at, or start looking at the building codes? What's the schedule on the council looking at the building codes? Because we had a couple questions about that at the forum for the elections. And I'm wondering just what's the council's plan on that to take a look at building codes?
Well, this is, okay, I thought we were talking about elections.
We will in a minute.
This is resident comments where.
Right, okay. You gave us, the committee, the task force gave us homework kind of for the next 4 years at least in looking at building codes and infrastructure development. We have plans to start making a serious review of both local municipalities and more broadly national, to see what other folks have done and also what seems to work and what doesn't work and what are the trade-offs. What are the trade-offs among water flow reductions, impositions on private properties, costs, and so as I said, this is homework for the next several years, and we are about to start doing that when we have the appropriate people on board to help us.
I just wanted to add to that. I think Arthur touched upon this, but as we know, we're in the process of contracting with a new technical engineer. And as a part of that process, which is separate also from the stormwater committee, the idea is that we're going to look at our SOPs, look at a sampling of prior variances and permitting, and really just do a little bit of a dusting of what we have, what types of templates we use to post to the public, so on and so forth. So I think that's probably a bit of a more nearer term where some of the stormwater review of the code is going to be something that will take place over at least the next fiscal year.
Okay, Marty, election committee.
Okay, if you go to the second page of your packet, you'll see a one-page report from the committee. And of course, there's a lot going on. We are at the height of the election process here. The forum went really well. We've had some nice compliments on it. The video recording is up on the website. Thank you, Michael Silliman, for that. And the questions were really interesting, covered a wide range. And so we put the questions up on the election committee page of the website as well. That's available. The ballots, Electech issued them on time, no problem there. But the post office sure dropped the ball. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds did not arrive when they were supposed to. So we filed an urgent delivery problem report. We worked with the mailboat contractor and informed the candidates, put out a special alert to the voters, and kept working with our local distribution center, which is at Westlake, until the ballots finally were found and delivered. And again, a special thanks to Keith Allen and to DJ, one of our local carriers, who both were very helpful in, boy, finding where those missing ballots were. They did arrive in time for people to vote, but since this could very well happen again, turns out we're not the only jurisdiction that had election delays this spring from the post office. The committee is spending some time to prepare a standard operating procedure for how to respond, because when you think about it, we don't have much time here. We have 30 days basically from when the mailboat contractor mails the ballots from New Jersey to the date that, in this case, May 21st, that the return envelopes are due for the vote counting. So if you assume a week for the incoming mail to come to the VMA voters, and then people should have at least 10 days or 2 weeks here to review the materials and cast their ballots. And then you assume a week for the ballots to be returned. Boy, it turned out to be tight this year because we had a full week plus delay on the incoming ballots to Martin's Additions. So we may need to extend that next year. The committee will make such recommendations in our June report about what a standard operating procedure to build in more flexibility to deal with postal delays. And there are a number of options we're looking at too. Make sure that we do not have the post office disenfranchising any Martin's Additions voters. The post office does not get to decide our elections. If you have any questions about that, be glad to answer them. May 5th election day went great, lots and lots of turnout. It was nice to see most of you there. And we had nearly twice as many people dropping off their completed return envelopes at the drop box, which of course is the most secure way to vote since there's no postal delay if you use the drop box, and a lot of people did. That was fun. Public
Marty.
information. Yes, questions?
Go ahead.
Well, Gene, why don't you go first?
Thank you. I'd like Marty to explain to me, how do you find out who messed up? How do you get notices about at what in all the moving parts, who messed up what? Whether it got mailed from New Jersey to here, and how do you figure out who's at fault here? Because if you can't, and I hate to say fault, but if you can't figure that out, you can't make it better. So
Right.
maybe, would you mind
Not a bit.
I want you to explain to me how you found out that somebody messed up. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
We have an informal procedure. Now we're writing it up in an SOP for future committees. Informal procedure is that number one, we check with the mail vote contractor to make sure that they mailed it on the morning they were supposed to. And this year that was like clockwork. 9 a.m. on the 22nd of April, boom, they were at the post office.
And you do that by asking them, did you mail it? And they said yes.
Right. No,
Yeah,
they have to send us a
that's
written
profound.
confirmation. They send us a written confirmation that they mailed it. So other than perjury, when they send us a written confirmation, it's an email saying, yes, this was mailed on schedule. We were at the post office before 9 this morning. So that email is on part of the public record. So we know that they did their part, unless they blatantly.
And the number of the number of ballots they put in the mail were
642,
okay. Thank you.
which is the correct that we gave them with the voter roll. So that's the
Okay.
first piece. And then at the Cinnaminson, New Jersey post office is the one they use. That postmaster does a sweep at the end of that day, and probably every day, to make sure, because they handle a lot of ballot packets that are coming from Electech in New Jersey there. It does a sweep to make sure they all went out, that nothing got dropped in a corner
Got
somewhere.
it. Got it.
So you can have two checks there at the end that's sending them to us. And then what we do as a committee, there's no postal tracking on the incoming ballots because Electech says they can't do it for less than thousands and thousands of dollars. They used to be able to do the postal tracking, but their subcontractor quit or went out of business.
Whatever. You get
So
the
anyway,
point.
so we don't have postal tracking, which would have been helpful. And if they could ever do that, we would like them to do it, but not at the cost of $4,000 or $5,000.
Yeah, but you know what? My son sends me a letter from Jersey City, and I get it 2 days later. What's the problem with the ballots?
Well, that's right. That's an issue. A couple people got their ballots from New Jersey that were mailed that Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Got them by Friday and Saturday that same week, 2 to 3 days. That used to be the
And how do you know that?
because what we do as a committee, doing our due diligence here in Martin's Additions,
Okay.
is we
Yeah.
call around. We check with 15, 20, 30 residents across the village. Has your ballot arrived? Or with some people, we say, the people we know are consistently going to be voting. We check it and say, send us an email when you get your ballot. So people are checking in. So we have our,
Did you open your mailbox today? Okay.
yeah, did you
Go
check your
ahead.
mailbox? Let us know when your ballot came. So we have this little informal network of residents spread across the village who let us know. And we also did calls. So when the ballots had not come, most of the people on Saturday and Sunday said, nope, hadn't seen theirs yet. On Monday, I, as the committee chair, started calling the rest of our sort of cross checklist across the village, due diligence. And it turned out that it looked like 80% of the people, 90% of the people, nobody got their ballot. Just a handful had come, which is very weird because usually you get them all at once. They come kind of with a big thump, right? The whole delivery. And so there were a handful trickling in, but 90% didn't have. The 28th, that's the next day. They were supposed to be here by the 27th. The post office says we will deliver within 5 days. That's the expectation that they set. Well, they weren't here in 6 days. They weren't here by the 28th. So we called a larger number of people across the village. And again, it was clear that at least 80% of the ballots had not arrived. At that point, the election committee
80%?
had not arrived
Based
within a
upon
week.
what
Within a
kind
week.
of 80%?
And
Based on
they,
what
they
was your
all should have been
sample?
here that by that Saturday or Monday. And here it is Tuesday the following week. They're not here yet. And yeah, the people we're checking with. Now, again, we did not call all 600 voters, but we called people across the village to say, and it turned out that most of them had not received their ballots. At that point, the committee then filed the official urgent delivery problem report with the post office and got Westlake involved. Westlake, I think, as you know, Gene, is our local
Right.
distribution center for mail
Right.
coming to VMA. And so they're now officially on notice, alerted to find it. And we continued to call Westlake. Keith Allen actually got on his horse and went down there and talked to him in person. And it was really quite an effort. DJ, our local mailman here in the north half of the village, also got involved. He's very thorough and did his due diligence. So we had obviously all hands on deck. Basically, we're going to be here until you find these, and you're going to find them and deliver them.
Well,
And
where were they?
they were
Where can they disappear to, Marty?
they disappeared
Did you
to.
ask them? Where do they go?
We've
Where did they
asked them.
go?
We've asked them twice, and there are only two places between here and New Jersey where they could disappear. One is a postal processing center in Pennsylvania, and that they sometimes go through, and the other is a postal processing center in Gaithersburg that they sometimes go through. But here's the kicker: the post office, I have learned, sends mail by really, should we say, circuitous routes. Our mail vote contractor, Electric in New Jersey, said that they had one case where somebody routed their mail that was going to a town in Pennsylvania from New Jersey, like, less than 200 miles. And that mail got routed by way of California.
Mhm.
And so it is not within the mail vote contractor's control or ours how the post office routes those mail boxes, mail packets, right? Mail packages. They can route it via Utah. They can route it via California. And so we don't actually know still. We never got an answer from Westlake about where those packets got routed. Obviously, some got here directly to the ones that arrived within 2 or 3 days. Some of them got routed through who knows where. But to the post office credit, and I give Westlake credit for this, our distribution center got on the stick to get this done. They found them. They found them and got them. Most of them were delivered by May 1st, May 2nd, May 4th, by May 10th and 11th, we'd had them pretty much all here. Everybody that had said they hadn't gotten them did get them a week late. So they did arrive in time for people to vote. And that's why that timing for the election committee is so important. That month between when they're mailed and the date they're due back, maybe should be 5 weeks. If we're going to have this kind of post office delay in the future, maybe the post office will get better because nationally now you have whole states that do solely mail voting. You have municipalities and counties that have, more than half of their votes come in by mail ballots. It's huge. And if the post office cannot be relied upon to deliver on a timely basis, everybody across the country is going to have to extend that time period between when the ballots are mailed to voters and when they're due to be back returned, to be counted. So at our
Marty,
meeting, we were very thorough, I must say.
we
We
have-
got on it fast.
we got
April
some
24th, we were on it.
council questions here.
Did she satisfy your questions, Gene? Because that was half an hour about the response.
Sorry, more than you needed to know.
I'm not buying any of it, so why don't you guys ask questions,
Good.
okay?
Good. I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I don't either.
Me too.
And we don't need evidence. so-
Yeah. Hey, Marty, just in 30 seconds or less, please, because we got to move on, I think, Mr. Chair. I was much delayed in filling mine out. I think the postmark it's the 15th is when it needs to be postmarked by.
It
How
should be
much
mailed
faith
by
do
today.
we have? How much faith do we have in that cute little box there outside of the supermarket that gets robbed of checks and retirement and pension funds and all that? I threw mine in there earlier today.
Oh,
It should be fine. It should be fine. As far as I know, that box has not been robbed today and hopefully won't be before it's picked up by DJ tomorrow.
All right, I didn't put any cash or checks in my ballot envelope. So.
It should be fine. But
Okay.
one of the things that the committee is considering is, what to do on May 21st, which is next Thursday. That's the vote counting day. If
Right.
we still have, 10, 20, let alone 50 ballots en route, obviously the committee will deal with that to make sure that we do count those ballots. We don't want
And
to
that you
post
can track.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
we have postal tracking on all the ballots coming
All
in.
right.
It's so fun.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Jeff,
Thanks. That was extremely helpful. And I just had a question. It may be rhetorical because maybe we punt it to the next election committee meeting or an outbrief report, but I still didn't quite understand how some of these numbers were derived. It sounded like there was a purposeful sample of some phone calls to residents. Of that purposeful sample of whether it was 10, 15, or 20, whatever that outcome was, it seems we then extrapolated it to 80%. And then there's another soundbite that I'm hearing, which has to do with somehow the problem was identified, and it sounded as if there was a certain number of ballots that were identified that were then able to be moved further along in the process. So I think it's important that this is just written down so we can understand what exactly happened, what was done to diagnose it, and then what was done to unclog it. Because I'm just sharing as both a statistician, but also a process engineer. I'm not quite understanding the value chain here of a problem was understood. It sounded like there was some investigation, but then there was a extrapolation from a small number of people in outreach. We made a very large assumption of how many ballots were missing, but then it sounded like there was another intervention, which I'm a little unsure of, that identified the actual number of ballots that were held up, and then there was a move forward. I'm very confused about what happened, how many ballots actually were missing en route, and do we have any confidence that they've moved forward, or is it still speculation?
Good question. And I'll get into the statistician angle on it. We do it.
But Marty, we have to just put it in perspective. We have a statutory mandate to pass our budget, and we have other important things. And that's what I'm
Gotcha.
saying. Whether
keep
or
it
not this is going to be discussed at a future election committee, awesome. I think the most important question right now is there a very clear answer that there's an understanding the number of ballots that were missing and that problem is resolved? Or
Yes,
are
sir.
we still under this gray area of we're still reaching out to people to see if there are missing ballots?
Every single person across the village who contacted us on their own initiative or who were part of 2 different levels of surveys by the committee, the election committee. We did a much larger sample when the first sample showed that they weren't coming. Anyway, every single person has now received a ballot that we know of. We checked.
But Marty, I'm pushing you on this because it's important.
Yeah.
There was something said about 80%. So 80% of over 600, we can do the math, what that is. So you're saying that there's a number of people that reached out to you. So I'm wondering, were there literally over 300 people that wrote to you? That's what is misunderstanding here is we're hearing 80%, but then we're hearing people have reached out to you. Did you literally have 400 people reach out to you that their ballot was missing?
No.
We had probably 60, 70, 80 people call us.
Okay, so
or
but that
email us.
okay, now you
Now
see where I'm
that's
getting
one
at.
side.
Yeah, the extrapolate.
That's one subset. Let me
The
tell you the rest of
extrapolate.
it, Jeff.
Okay.
Just I'm going to do this really quick. Besides people telling us, right? We put out a lot of info that says, tell us if you don't get your ballot, and people do. Besides that group initiating information to the committee that theirs hadn't come, that's one set. We know they didn't come because they told us. We as a committee did 2 rounds of sampling with Village.
No, Marty, I'm stopping you right there. I understand your purposeful sampling. I do. I get it.
Okay, all right.
But I heard that there were some other interventions that sounded like that we've identified this cohort of ballots and we solved the problem.
We have solved the problem.
Is-
Westlake solved the problem.
Alex just came
Westlake
with
How do-
solved it.
okay, so let's get to that. Westlake solved the problem. Did they, in your outreach to them, did they literally say, we have found 400 missing ballots and they are now moving forward?
No.
So
They
what
would-
exactly did Westlake say to give any confidence that this was resolved?
Westlake said that they had found a significant number of ballots. That's all they wouldn't give us a number. We knew that it was over 400 because that's who got delivered on the 1st of May and the 2nd of May and the 4th of May. That's how many got delivered. It was more than 400 got delivered.
And they didn't, they said they wouldn't disclose significant because there's a federal law or because they just didn't feel like counting it?
You know, I have no idea how to get them to be more forthcoming about, number one, did they ship them via Alaska or something? We never got an answer to that. And number two, exactly how many they finally kicked loose when they got through the logjam. We know it was at least 400 from just people in the village telling us that.
My
And we know
assumption
they're all
is,
now here because we have checked back with everybody that we can check with, and everybody says that they got theirs. So that's
without intervention, they would have shown up.
Yeah.
Okay, like I said, we move forward. It's not that I am, irregardless of
important.
incumbent or non-incumbent status, I don't feel worried about the idea that 600 people didn't get their ballots. I was just trying to push a little bit more on the accuracy of the purposeful sampling and then the fact that we have confidence that people received the ballot. But again, let's move on.
Okay, let's move on.
We have a procedure there, and we're checking, again, let me just finish here. We are checking the postal tracking on the return envelopes coming to New Jersey, and we may need to be somewhat flexible about making sure all the return envelopes get counted. And that's a time issue, and the committee is up to speed on that and how to deal with that. So I think we're in good shape. The vote counting session begins at 7 p.m. on the 21st of May.
See you then.
And you're all welcome to watch it if you'd like to.
Acknowledge one thing. I do want to we all thank the election committee ending on this positive note, knowing that you've done a lot. This is not your fault, but we really appreciate your persistence on this.
The
Thank you.
buck stops with you, Marty.
Well, hey, we got it done, and I'm pleased that it worked out. Everybody gets to vote.
Good, thank you. Keith, community engagement.
Very quickly, very briefly, we had an outstanding event here last Tuesday, a week ago, this past Tuesday. And it was great. And we're looking forward now to Independence Day celebration, which will take place the last Sunday of next month of June. And then we go forward with the movie in the park, and we've got a lot of exciting things on the agenda.
Good.
And thank you.
Thank you, Keith. And great party on the sidewalk. Okay. Moving on. Next item on the agenda is Elizabeth Goldberg already mentioned it. We put together a mission statement for the new Stormwater Committee. And that is on page 4 of the packet. The council has had an opportunity to look this over, and the committee has, and now the public has. So first, I would like to ask committee, council members, any observations, questions, edits? Anything?
I would just like to say that I had a bunch of questions from neighbors about what we intended to do with gray infrastructure. There has been some concern and maybe a little bit of hair on fire speculation that the council approved the entire funding proposal, which
Yeah.
of course is not the case. And I
Right.
did explain that it will be in stages, and I think it's laid out very well in
Okay,
the
yeah, I
minutes,
think
for example.
just to finish on that thought, the committee or task force, whatever we want to call it now, has made a number of suggestions, recommendations, some of which will take a long time to implement. If in fact we do implement it, some of the gray structure would involve working with the county, going over the problem of going over private properties will be a serious issue. We had water pipes coming in into the village through off Western Avenue. There were clear cases of I can't think of what is the word when you give the right to easement. There were easements in people's deeds. These easements were fought, and it's been 10 years with no pipes. And we happen to have a meeting here with the project manager, and that he says he's the third project manager on this project, just trying to get approval going through private property for easements that already exist. So when we're talking about some of the structures that would have to be done, these are among the things that would have to be worked out. So any other comments from the council on this mission statement? And then Elizabeth, we'll hear from you.
I do, but I want to defer if others had anything.
Elizabeth?
Well, no.
Before on the council, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, Elizabeth, just
Okay.
real quick.
Okay.
My only thought here, and this is have been involved in developing some scope of work for other task force and committees that were stood up. I guess I will punt it over to Elizabeth, who's representing the new committee. I know that I guess at some point, Arthur, you may call for a vote to adopt the scope of work.
Yes, we will in a moment.
But
Yes.
I guess I do have, there are some edits, there are some things in this that I would like to see, suggested tweaking. But I would also like to be working with the committee in a meeting that they have so that we could hear what their thoughts are. Because
They actually gave us a document that gave us their thoughts.
Okay, well then let me hear from Elizabeth, because I feel that I just want to make sure that they feel they adequately had time to put inputs into this, and did this we're not just handing it to them, that they had some thought behind this. Because I'm happy about the idea of adopting this as a scope of work, but if they haven't had a formal meeting yet as a committee, I think one of the things that may happen is they want to look at it, and they may have suggestions to add to it.
Let me tell you what this is. This is the council's scope of work for the committee. They don't write their own scope of work. So this is their marching directions from the council.
I hear you, Arthur,
Okay.
and I've believe me, I've been here and
Okay.
I've helped develop scope of works in the past while on the council. And whether it's a task force or other things, and we have invited inputs from members. And so while we can draft it, I want to make absolutely sure and certain that members of the committee, whether now or new ones who join, if they have suggestions to share to us about the scope, they can do so.
Elizabeth, it's up to you.
Okay, thanks. The answer to that question is no, the committee has not had the opportunity to talk as a committee to review the scope of work. And right now we have one of our committee members in Japan, one in Los Angeles, and the other one in Italy and France, and for I don't know how long. So I think it's very important. I did ask for people to please send any comments they might have on it in time for this meeting, but I haven't received those. So because I think it's incomplete. So in two areas. It pretty much, the bullets that you have pretty much follow the action plan with two exceptions. One is there's no mention of the gray infrastructure activities or the ordinance amendments to the code, whatever the stormwater management policies. Because those are, I mean, we're talking about flooding, and that was the whole rationale for doing the engineering study in the first place. So obviously it was a very, very high priority. And the way you relieve the flooding is, improving a whole lot of what's underground, carrying the water away. So it remains, I understand that this is a we understand it's a long-term project, and that will hopefully be funded, piecemeal as time goes by, and maybe hitting the low, what do you call it? The low fruit on the tree first, that's more accessible. Yeah. But that we believe that it's very important to make a start in that and have an action, your own action plan of implementing, stepwise to get that going. Our connection would be maybe we see it more as a liaison, as a communication channel, so that whatever decisions are made, we can help you also communicate with residents what actions are being taken and what outcomes happen and things like this, just to provide additional way for public information and sharing, and also engaging the community so that they're also following your decisions and participating in the meetings where these things are being discussed and the budget for them are being voted on. The second area is the legal part, the ordinance part. And I know Mark was very, very engaged and committed in this, being a lawyer himself and very interested, and he provided a lot of text also that could be used based on a survey that he did on his own of ordinances in other jurisdictions. So again, this is, we would just like to be able to have the opportunity to listen in, to comment, to provide input and feedback, and also to share that, in this kind of communication channel. So I don't know what the best word to call it, if it's a liaison or communication function, but to make sure that those parts, which I considered, we all considered to be two of the most important parts of the entire study that was done, that we somehow stay in concert with you, and providing feedback after the 3 years of footwork that's gone on this already. So that's the main idea. The other point on this is, as I mentioned already, was the language for the budget. If this is in a scope of work, so this is something that will last from year to year, obviously. So, but we just wanted to be reassured that the discussions that we've had already about specific funds being available for some of the outreach education activities that could be done this year will be in the budget. It wasn't a large sum of money, and I know Jeff knows what it is. We've talked about that with him, and it was in the action plan as well. So we just wanted to make sure that it wasn't being overlooked because it wasn't explicitly mentioned there, right?
No, the scope of work does not have budget. The budget has the budget, and
Exactly.
there is a substantial amount in there for work for next year. But to get to your two main points, these were deliberately left out. The writing of code, we felt, is the job of the council. What we saw from the committee.
Sorry, Arthur, you're saying we. We didn't vote on this. I disagree.
Well, okay,
I agree.
let me get through this. Then
okay, but let me just say I agree with Elizabeth.
Okay.
And
okay.
We'll come back to that. I want to see an opportunity for a task force that has worked for years and to provide input. And so I am more than happy as a council member to say, here's a draft. And let's have standing members of this new committee look at it and have an opportunity to provide input.
Okay.
But to say that we as a council said we do not want their participation on any inputs or suggestions on code seems a little bit. You didn't ask me on that.
I sent out a draft several weeks ago asking for. Did I send out a draft to everybody? I asked for comments I received comments from one person.
Okay, so you're
So-
saying those comments reflect the entire council?
Well, if there weren't
If there weren't any,
responses,
then
then
If I
And it's
didn't hear from, I said,
presumed to
I'm
be
looking for, I
acceptable.
said, please
Yeah.
educate me. Tell me what you think about this.
Well, but at the same time, you also mentioned that there was input from the committee, but I'm hearing that's not the case. So all I'm saying is, this is an open meeting and I
Yeah,
wanted
right.
to have an opportunity to
Okay,
talk
good.
about
We will talk
the
about it.
feedback.
Good.
And
So,
I'm convinced
Okay.
that there needs to be some further updating on this.
yeah, it
Good,
sounds like
okay.
we're not voting on this today.
we could, if you feel comfortable voting on it.
Well, yeah,
Well, let me just go through the reasoning here. One is that code writing is a council function. We did have one suggestion for a draft code from the committee. But frankly, I would like to see lots of different kinds of codes out there. There are many around here. Look at the differences in what they are regulating, how they're regulating, what the wording is, what the experience has been. And before I go forward, or we go forward, I think we ought to be hearing much more about that by either presented by the committee or by the council. I would like to have our new building code administrator who has experience in this area help put something that Marty asked the question before, put together a compendium of possible code. So that's one reason. And the other is the infrastructure is something that is going to be involving over years. Again, it's a council function to identify, to pay for, and the managers function to find out how to do this, working with the county, with other organizations in this. So I thought those were,
I guess, go ahead.
those were council functions and managerial functions, not functions for the committee. Go ahead.
I guess my question is, for the council and for Elizabeth on behalf of the committee, whether there's an urgency in us approving, I mean, it sounds like they're spread around the world right now, members of the committee, but without us approving anything today, you can still function as a committee. We don't necessarily need this mission statement approved today. So I think we might give you another month if council members approve, and Ron maybe wants to chime in here as well, to provide us with your draft suggestions, and then we can take those in consideration also based on Ron's feedback and what you just explained, the function of the council.
There is one phrase in here. The committee's principal job will be to assist the council, village manager, and residents, which is all part of this, in the following areas, which are listed, and other subjects that may arise. So if we want to
Pretty comprehensive.
request specific support in reviewing code, it's there that we could do so. So let me just look around. Do we want to introduce this today or wait another month? You want to wait?
Does the introduction require a vote?
We could introduce
It
and
doesn't have to be voted on
Yeah,
today.
it
It could be
Does
introduced.
require a vote.
Oh, the introduction does require a vote.
Oh, but
says Ron.
not,
We vote
but
to
we don't have to
introduce.
vote on whether or not to adopt
approve,
it.
adopt.
No, the
That's what
introduction
you were
does
asking, isn't
not
it?
need a
Like,
vote.
we
The
do-
adoption needs a vote.
Go
Say that again, Ron.
The introduction does not need a vote. The adoption needs the vote. I apologize. I thought the question was, do we need to vote to adopt it?
Yeah.
I did hear Arthur state
Yeah.
before that adoption was a possibility tonight.
So Elizabeth, this would give your colleagues that are in 8 different time zones time to
Right.
respond to you.
Yeah, and I think maybe we could get it sooner than a month, but it's just,
Yeah.
I feel it definitely has not had their input, and I am not comfortable just, giving you my reactions alone. I think it needs the group's
There's no urgency.
response.
Right, no, there's no urgency in this. No. Okay.
Then you can provide.
Yeah, and
your thoughts as well.
we started off a little bit down a rabbit hole. I mean, let's really thank Arthur for putting this
So,
together. and giving us
Yes,
this.
very much so.
But
So if anyone
it's-
has ideas, please
Respond. to the
respond.
Yeah.
That's what I asked for
Well done.
responses.
Yeah.
it's hard to do it by email, and
Well,
also frankly the idea of where is this leading into policy, and really should we be doing this by email versus an open meeting? So with all that
Okay.
said, I think right now there's a draft. Elizabeth, maybe perhaps with everyone traveling, but maybe you folks as a committee might have a discussion, an open meeting, and maybe, talk about this by ideally the next council meeting, then we could have your edits and
Yeah.
so forth.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. And the other thing is, Art, we understand very well what you just said, that this is it's council business, absolutely. But this is a technical committee that was convened, to provide information, and there is an ongoing information function. I mean, it's the aspect of keeping your community and residents in lockstep with, everything that's going on and getting their buy-in and their participation. That's a big job. And so I think that there's a role still for this committee to be a link between the managerial decisions and policy decisions you're making and the rest of the residents
Okay.
out there. Okay.
Thank you.
I believe we do have precedent of committees recommending some ideas to both Ron as well as the council on the development of code.
Okay.
So there's nothing preventing
Sure.
recommendations.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Or like,
Wonderful.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the council already approved the transitioning this from a task force to a committee through the rest of this fiscal year. And then the idea would be that in the new council coming in July 1st would reappoint the people that want to be reappointed.
Well,
And
it doesn't have to be. We can have continuing committee. Nothing says committees come to an end at the end of a year.
Well, you have to sign your oath of office again every year.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yes, everyone
Okay.
will have to be reappointed and retake their oath.
Okay.
And then we also I have a question in my manager's report tonight about when am I putting out a call
You
for
could start
additional
that right now.
volunteers for this committee? Because at this point, this committee doesn't have a mission statement or a scope of work. So that's kind of what I've been waiting for. Because what am I asking people to step on and do? Step up and serve in a certain capacity. But I don't have that capacity written down anywhere yet, besides for this draft.
Right. What could we do? Could we ask for volunteers right now to come up and sign up for a draft
On one
report?
hand, I'm hearing this urgency that we really should be putting out a call for volunteers right away. Let's do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I'm hearing we can't vote on we still don't have a mission statement. We need to wait another month.
But we
So
have a draft.
You can sign up for the
There's
draft.
nothing saying you can't do a call
Right.
for volunteers with here's a
Okay.
draft scope of
all right,
work.
I'll put out a call. For
Yeah,
volunteers.
or even just, this is the name of the task force.
I think
Figure
people-
out what it's about.
I think the folks who are probably very interested or will be interested know about the work and but I would.
And then okay, so that's fine. That's great. That's the answer.
Elizabeth,
I-
yes,
I want one last point that I forgot to mention. It's the group's feeling that 3 people, what do we had? We had 4. It wasn't enough, and that you should really aim for at least 6. So because there's enough work to spread around, and the idea was if you have individuals that kind of take charge of a particular area rather than trying to have everybody involved in the same thing. But definitely it wasn't enough, and there also may be some changes in the current. When you hear from the current members, there may be some people who do not wish
Right.
to continue. So,
Well,
but
start
we-
alerting all your friends. Tell
Yeah.
all your friends, do what the election committee does. What was that? Tell a neighbor,
Nudge.
nudge a neighbor.
Nudge a neighbor. Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
six, and using the election committee numbers, that sounds like 80% of all volunteers in this city, this village. So good luck with that.
And oh gosh, I do have one question, technical. So this is a committee, but does a committee mean it's statutory?
Right.
And
No.
and Ron, I know is but does this mean, I appreciate what you're saying, Elizabeth, but usually what we do is we say we want a minimum of 3, but then if others join, we take more. So I just wanted to get a clarity of what statutory or not, does that really matter at this point? Except it would have to be, I guess, in our code versus,
No, it doesn't.
right? If it was statutory, it would have to be like the ethics or something. It would have to actually
It's
be
not.
in our code,
Or
but it's
It's
not.
not statutory.
That's right. Yeah, it's not a statutory committee, be a ad hoc committee. But as a practical matter, we generally recommend an odd number so that when the committee's voting to make a recommendation, there's not a tie. So 5 or 7 rather than 6, I would recommend.
And just
Right.
based on the CEC experience, it's good to have an odd number for quorums in a smaller committee. Because if you have a committee of 6, you have to have 4 members there.
That's right.
So
Getting
that in
quorum is
mind.
hard. And the last point I just wanted to mention real quick is the task force did make recommendations already on the gray infrastructure. So it's not like we're asking this new committee to make recommendations on which gray infrastructure projects we should work on. We already have that document that we spent $100,000 on Balin preparing for us. So we already have that ready to go. We have 10 projects. I feel like in all this discussion about the code and about the green infrastructure and educational programming, we've kind of lost sight of those 10 projects. So I just want to bring that back to our attention. This council that's coming in on July 1st, the first question I'm going to ask them, or you all, is which of these 10 projects should we be focusing on? Which should I build into my work plan? What should we be figuring out funding? To Jeff's point from last month, which of these projects should we be trying to figure out funding, solutions for and moving forward with? So I don't think we're going back to this committee asking them to come up with recommendations again. We already have that. Now the job's on the council to really direct this work.
Good, thank you. Okay, thank you. And we will look for amendments and edits to this mission statement. Okay, we are now moving on to adoption of the fiscal year 2027 budget ordinance, which is why this is a special meeting tonight, and tax code. Let me just say for the record that the Martin's Addition property tax on $1 million assessed value house is $20. And when people say that I'm paying $12,000 in property tax, $20 of that or $30 of it is going to Martin's Addition. The rest is going to other recipients of the property tax. And so with that, let us move to the budget. You want to introduce the budget, Jim?
I would be delighted. I don't think there's any more words I really need to add other than really appreciating our residents, for those who showed up and were there at the open budget session to help inform this. Jean and others who are literally on the screen right now, Elizabeth, Marty, who had attended, had really, I think, helped us shape and provide some really good inputs. And then Michael and everyone, the council members, a lot of thought and effort. Probably one of the smoothest and most prepared for budgets that I have seen in an annual process since I've been on the council. So I really want to thank you. I know there are still some things we'll talk about going forward around straight line in terms of how we interpret the increase in expenses and income and how we model that. Jean brought that up. And given the fact that ARPA is now off the table and, there may be some changes in interest rates, as well as we may expect some dips in income this year, that's something that we'll look into. And other than that, really just want to thank all the thought that went into it. And before, I guess, we do the introduction, Michael, there may be something or some things you wanted to cover, particularly around the maybe some adjustments for the Stormwater Committee and a few other things just before we jump into it.
That's right. And this is a public hearing, so we do need to actually open this up for comments if there's any comments. Before we do that, I can just say there's the 2 new line items here. One is passing on the franchise fees to Montgomery Municipal Cable. I explained that in the last 2 meetings. So that's just a straight pass through of some fees. And then the last one is the stormwater education and programs. That's the green infrastructure programs. That one, we originally said it, and I spoke with members of the task force and asked them what that dollar figure was going to be back when we introduced this budget in March, and they told me $55,000. That was based on the Chevy Chase Views program that they're modeling their green infrastructure program and educational program off of. That's how much they budget for it in Chevy Chase View. In the task force's final report, they had bumped that number up in April after we had introduced this budget at $55,000. They bumped it up to $75,000. So if the council would like, we can make an adjustment here up to $75,000 to match that final report from the task force. Other than that, I think this budget is perfect, in my humble opinion.
Right. Yeah, I think we should, if the task force, now, can accomplish what they would like to accomplish and what we would like to accomplish, we will be spending the $75,000. On the other hand, we've seen when programs start out, they can start very slowly. And it needs a lot of education, and people learn from their neighbors and look what they're doing. And you don't get up to that immediately. We saw that in the private trees. We saw that in composting. We're seeing that in the Chevy Chase at Home program. It takes several years to ramp up to that. So, but I would like to start off and say, we have goals. We have $75,000 we'd like to get going, even if we don't achieve it this year. So can we just say that? Pencil that in?
You would like to make a motion?
Okay, I will move to increase the budget that was introduced 2 months ago to change the stormwater education and program from 55,000 to 75,000. So I will move. Second. We have votes? Aye. Okay, good.
Great. Thank you.
Now we have public discussion.
May I just add to that, just what we're not voting on, but is part of the possibility here is, again, what we talked about, some development around the code. Is there any modification there? And so we may need, for example, some legal input. And then if there's any input from a technical engineer, but those are coming out of existing pools.
Right.
So that's why we're not saying, oh, wait, this may be actually 120 with those consulting fees. Those have already been built in elsewhere into the budget. So
That's exactly right. We have at least 3 budget line items that could potentially be used with extra money in those budget categories for a potential code review or expert.
Great. And one last thing, it is worth just pointing out, so that 75,000 we did vote for on, that models other municipalities in terms of what they have had. And this is part of that matching fund with the county for greenscaping. But as Arthur had mentioned, it's very possible in the first year, we don't know, but the first year, maybe you have a couple houses and maybe you only use half of that. Obviously, it would be perhaps a good problem to have if a lot more people take it up, but let's see how that goes.
That's right.
Yeah, but there's also for the other things that were in the mission statement, education,
Exactly.
research they're going to have to do, cooperation with other municipalities and so on. So this budget item could deal with all of that.
That's right.
Okay, we have now opened this up to public discussion. The public, you're out there. There's one hand up. Marty.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to commend you for the budget process this year. Again, I like the transparency and the clarity is really good. I would like to see it begin earlier next year. And the March public meeting where you talk about developing the budget was early in March this year, which was great, but not many people attended. So again, my suggestion is that we that the council look to, and Michael Silliman staff look to, bringing in more community input at that early stage when you have the open meeting in March about putting the budget together. I think this budget looks great. I have no suggestions to amend anything. Thanks for putting in a little more for the elections. I saw that in there and I appreciate it. I think it's accurate and great job. Thank you. I hope you approve it. And again, I would just encourage more front end community involvement back in March.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Marty, I'm just going to respond to that because I do, with all my respect towards you as a friend and all your time you put as a volunteer, I must say, working with Michael and Arthur and others, there was a lot of effort in terms of outreach on the community. And we actually, I think this meeting was the most well-attended one that we've actually had in years. So appreciate that the numbers may not reach the 50 or 60 that you might be thinking of. And I'm not saying that facetiously. I mean, I'm just saying, I know that you'd like to have a big full house, but you know, it is what it is. People are busy, but I think Michael and the team did an extraordinary job, and it showed because we actually had at least 2 or 3 times more people show up this year than we've had in past years.
Yeah, do more of the same. It works. Do more of it.
Do more. Okay. Any other? I see no other hands up to discuss. So we are ready to adopt. We've already introduced the budget a couple of months ago. The requisite number of days has passed since then. We have had a public hearing, and we are ready to adopt the fiscal year 2027 budget ordinance number 2026-1. Want to move to adopt?
I move to adopt the budget for this.
You want a second to adopt? We second to adopt. Do we adopt this budget? Aye. Okay, we next have a property tax.
That's right.
And the property tax is a tax at the rate of 0.02 of a dollar per $100 of assessable value. That are numbers waiting to be wrong, but they are right. $0.002. And Ron's high school kids at the time figured this out for us.
Yes.
So we also, I would like to point out, $0 of assessed value of assessable personal property. It turns out that assessable personal property is a term of art in assessed values. It is the property that people use in their businesses that they may operate from home. We had one person who actually paid it, and we thought that was kind of unfair. So a couple of years ago, zeroed that out. And also, $1.45 per $100 of assessed value of utility property. So that's the poles and the lines that go through the village. So that is the property tax resolution. So a resolution to approve levying a tax on certain real and personal property under the provisions of section 6-203. It is resolution 2026-2. Do we want to? You move to adopt. Do we have a second? We have a second to adopt. Do we have a vote? Okay, $20 per $1 million.
Gene, are you interrupting our
Already been done, but.
legislative process here? Are you throwing something?
No,
in?
stop, Jeff. I'm not interrupting the legislative process. I hope you just took a vote. I was going to ask I thought it was important that there's only, unfortunately, 6 of us on this call. So I suppose your answer is not that important because it doesn't go beyond the 6 of the people that are listening to this. But perhaps the council ought to remind people about where the predominant revenues come from. So somebody says, well, wait a minute, if I'm only paying $20, where's the money come from? The fact of the matter is it comes from the state reimbursement of our share of income and income tax. The fact that we are rich by income is what's funding our budget. Okay, it's not our property tax, which is sort of more typical of a community, is that property tax is what's doing that. But so we've lowered our property tax rate to the lowest we possibly can and still remain a municipality and still get the state reimbursement for income tax. But I don't know, I'd like to hear some appreciation, or I don't know what, and recognition that it is the wealth of our community as measured by its income, our income tax, because we get a kickback, a bad word, but you know what I mean, from the
Watch your
state.
language here.
I'm sorry.
People may be listening.
We get back from the state based upon the income levels of our community. I just think it's important that you guys think about this, reflect on the fact that anybody would normally think, well, if you're only charging me X and I'm only paying $20 a year, how are we paying for roads, garbage, water, blah, 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 blah? Because there are several other categories of taxes that we are granted by fact that we are a municipality, by the good graces of us being a municipality. Let us not forget. Okay, I'll stop talking.
On behalf of the council, I want to thank you for all the taxes you're paying to fund our sidewalks.
Thank you.
It's all
Because of
coming from
all the
Shepherd.
money I make, I
All coming
want you
from
to
Shepherd.
thank me. Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Well,
Gene.
that-
Gene.
Gene is
Everybody
precisely
else too.
correct
Hey,
about
thank
that.
you. Okay.
Good.
It's
Okay.
important. Don't
Thank
just
you.
laugh.
Just a matter of,
Arthur is not to be blown off, Arthur. It's
That's
important.
right.
Thank
so
you.
Michael, very quickly, we may not need to update this, but you had been so awesome and put together that one pager. Originally, it stemmed from the election committee thought on just an overview of the pie chart, which did identify this large chunk of what is part of our annual income. And I'm just curious, based upon this approval now, if we need to tweak it or just change it, but I think that the numbers you put together were based upon what was already part of the introduction. So
Yeah, we did amend that one line item, so I'll make it that slight adjustment. And it's also, to Gene's point, it's on where our revenue comes from is on page 5, the top of page 5 in your packet today, and you'll see we're estimating $750,000 from income tax. So,
and again, on the converse of this, just to say, we do have, I believe it's still on record, the lowest tax rate when it comes to property tax in the state, and yet we still have a brand new Brookville sidewalk that we're doing, and the idea that we are doing green and gray projects. So that is really something that is quite remarkable.
Right.
So there you go.
Thank you. Okay, we have some more items on the agenda. One is the next item is the possible introduction of an ordinance dealing with the accessory dwelling units, ADUs. Ron, once again, do you want to come in and describe to us why we are considering this right now?
and I want to just mention before you do that, Ron, that this is on page 11, and I have included the cover page as requested that we also included in the newsletter and the council corner section this last month. So everyone should have seen this by now, and thank you, Ron, for writing this.
Yeah, my pleasure. So during the 2025 regular session, the Maryland General Assembly passed a law preempting certain regulations applicable to accessory dwelling units. Basically saying accessory dwelling units need to be given the same side and rear setbacks that are given to any other accessory building in the jurisdiction, like detached garages and sheds. And the law says you cannot have a rear or side setback for an accessory dwelling unit that is stricter than that for a shed or detached garage. And because Martin's Additions currently does, we need to amend the code to bring it into compliance with this new state law. So right now in Martin's Additions, an accessory dwelling unit is subject to a side setback of 8 feet, and detached garages and sheds have a side setback of 5 feet. And then for the rear, Martin's Additions says that's 20 feet for an ADU, but it's 5 feet for a garage or shed. So we need to amend that as well. And then finally, the law says you're allowed to impose special parking requirements for an accessory dwelling unit. And Martin's Additions does. We say you need 2 dedicated parking spaces for an ADU. But if you elect to do so, it needs to be supported by a parking study. So if we want to keep the current requirement in the code, we need to have a parking study performed to indicate that that regulation is reasonable. And so I've prepared a draft ordinance for you, and it occurred to me there's basically 3 options. So 1, we could just delete the special rules for the accessory dwelling unit. 2, we could raise the setbacks for all accessory buildings to what it is currently for an ADU, but then maybe consider variances for modest structures like sheds. But, I think that might be a lot of procedural burden. And then the best option I came up with, which is what is in the draft currently for your consideration, is reducing or eliminating the special setbacks for accessory dwelling units, but including a setback modifier in the code that provides if the accessory building, regardless of what it is taller than 15 feet, for each 1 foot over 15 feet, the setback increases by 1.5 feet or 2 feet, whatever. And same with respect to width. If it's wider than 24 feet, then a modifier applies as well. And that is something that's actually currently done by Montgomery County and town of Chevy Chase and some others. So
Right.
I think that's probably a good option. But these are just 3 options. There might be more. We do have to have the new rules in place by October 1, 2026. So that's why it's being introduced now, and considering that there's probably not going to be an August meeting. So you probably want to adopt in July or September at the latest.
Right. So, the
Actually, September would
underlying,
not give us enough time.
the bold underline area would, these are increased setbacks based on the scale of the structure. And so it's any structure, a garage, a shed, an auxiliary dwelling unit, anything, accessory dwelling unit, any, so it doesn't make any special distinctions, but it does say the larger the structure, the bigger the setback is required. So you're not looming over your neighbor. Okay. I would like to add something here. The bottom paragraph, or the dwelling unit parking.
Yes.
And consider removing that for a couple of reasons. One is that if it were to be enforced, a parking study would have to be conducted to justify it. But we have no such parking requirements for any other kind of structure, unit, number of drivers, number of adults in a household, how many driver's licenses there may be, how many cars may exist in a household. We have no other parking restrictions throughout the code. This is the only place where this occurs, I believe, that at least 2 new dedicated on-site parking spaces shall be provided. And as I recall, I may be wrong about this, but this was kind of added as a way to deter accessory dwelling units because it kind of imposes this additional requirement. Like, we don't want higher density here. We don't want affordable housing. We don't want mother-in-laws. And so I would suggest that we seriously consider deleting that whole paragraph for the reasons that I gave. It's not used anywhere else. We require a study to accomplish, and I think it has deleterious effects on the possible future accessory dwelling units. I'm looking around at my council.
So I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
By removing it, we're not incentivizing, but we're making it easier
Yes,
for these units,
right.
these dwellings.
It would be the same as any other dwelling.
Yeah.
We have no requirements. Like, if your kids are going to get driver's license, we say you need to have
Right.
parking spaces.
So as a council, by doing that, we're essentially saying that we're okay with these additional.
Yeah, we're more okay. We're more okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not trying to deter them by imposing this additional requirement.
A quick question. I know there are folks who are in the audience and folks who might be, are we allowing for public comment at some point?
Well, yeah, if this is introduced, there will be public comment.
Okay, so we're
There
saying
will be.
we're not entertaining resident comments at this stage unless folks stick around for resident comments. Okay.
Yeah.
I then have, well, I don't want to interrupt. Are there other
No,
council?
no.
I had a couple questions I did want to ask them.
Go
Anyone
ahead.
You had some observation.
I have a question for Ron, but I would like to have Jeff go first.
Oh,
Maybe
sure.
he has
We
the
can
same
flip for it.
idea. No, just go for
Go
it.
ahead, Ron. I'm Jeff.
I'm not quite ready to strip that. I mean, considering that we do have an introduction here and we have time to think about it, because I would like to have a little bit more information about perhaps what other municipalities or even beyond are doing with ADUs and requirements for parking. Arthur, as you know, as I respect you, but I'm not sure that the idea was that this is to restrict grandmothers from moving in. I grew up with my grandmother. I would love if my grandmother could, still be here and move in with us. I think it was more of the idea people are concerned. There are hardly any spaces here on our streets. It's hard to find parking. And that if for whatever reason, there is an uptick and it does increase the actual density within VMA, then folks would like to understand and appreciate the fact that, are we all of a sudden going to be losing even more space for parking? So I'm not entirely certain of what the solution there is, but I don't know if getting rid of it is the one. And I'd like to have a little bit more research perhaps of what other municipalities are doing, because I think that this was a controversial point actually from the state level. There were many things about the state level bill that was being introduced that didn't make it through committee, but one of them was the idea they got rid of all parking requirements. And I think that is something that bothered me at the state level. And I certainly would be bothered with the idea of us striking this right now without any more thoughtful input or research, because maybe 2 is too much, but maybe there's something around, I think we should look at the parking density and be thoughtful about it.
That raises the question about, should we have parking requirements for any other structure or situation? If you're concerned about it for accessory dwelling units, should you be concerned about it for any other situation? If there's 5 or more people in a household, should you have extra parking?
Well, that's not the question before me right now.
No, I know, but should it be?
I'm looking at it very specifically in the ADU context, which is an accessory dwelling other than the main house. And so that's what I'm saying. I'm looking at it like this, and I'm not quite so ready to say, let's get rid of the idea of a parking study for that type of dwelling.
Can I make a proposal
Yeah.
that we just introduce this and?
Yes, right. Oh, yeah, we're not going to.
May I ask?
Yeah, oh,
Ron
yeah, now
one
it's your question.
First, because I was entitled to one. I would like to ask Ron, this actually, Jeff's question amazingly kind of dovetails with mine, I think. I wondered whether other municipalities that have the ADU provisions similar to ours or similar to what you proposed have retained the parking spaces, and if so, if they have done the parking studies, and if you would recommend that we do that in light of what the state is proposing for increased density at some point.
Yeah. So great question. All my clients are looking at this at the same time as you. No one has yet made any final decisions yet. I can tell you that one other client, Village of North Chevy Chase, is considering deleting the parking requirement because of the traffic study requirement, and because they feel like there haven't been many accessory dwelling units built in their jurisdiction, and so the cost of doing the study may outweigh the benefit of actually having it in the code based on the number of applications for ADUs that they've actually seen. It appears to me that the county is going to retain its 1 parking space requirement because, as you know, the county law and the Martin's Additions law will apply concurrently. I don't yet know what my other clients are going to do, but happy to report that to you once other decisions are made. Again, as Michael noted, the ordinance is just being introduced tonight. I'm glad it's being discussed. It can also be discussed at the next meeting, and there'll be a public hearing at the next meeting as well.
Okay.
So back to my proposal, let's just table the parking minimums, whether those should apply for all houses or just ADUs or not at all. It can be a conversation for another day. The thing that we need to do, and we're actually ahead of the game on, is we have a deadline that we need to make an adjustment. So out of the three options here, Ron has written up option 3. We could introduce it and make changes to it later. We'll hold a public hearing
Can
about
we
this.
introduce it and make changes later, Ron?
Yes, absolutely. And if you
Okay.
decide to delete the parking requirement, that is an easy edit to make. And I mean, you could introduce it tonight with that change, or you could hold it over and make that change before or after the public hearing.
Okay,
And I just want to say for the record, there's the 3 options Ron has outlined here. The one that I firmly disagree with is option 1, and that's increasing the setbacks for other types of structures. We do get a lot of permits for people to build sheds and garages and stuff. So increasing those and then forcing those people to apply for a variance. The variance process is something we actually want to steer people away from, not towards, because it does cost a lot of money and takes a long time and delays stuff. And then it ends up creating controversial votes for the council. So we don't want to steer people towards that. We want to steer people away from that. So options 2 or 3, from my opinion, are
so option 3 is the one that we have
in
here.
front of you. That's right.
Yeah,
And it would
let's,
seem that option 2 would just bring an ADU closer to someone else's
Yeah.
backyard,
That's the
which would
minimum.
be.
That's why we're introducing, I
Right.
think that's why we're introducing this, because without it,
Right.
it would automatically default to 5 feet.
That's right.
Right, correct. And so that seems.
Okay.
We're doing this to protect, or whatever, however you want to phrase it. We can exert our authority as VMA to ensure that our setbacks are in accordance to what people like as the character of the building.
Right.
good, okay,
So
so
we have a motion to introduce.
I moved.
I'm not gonna, I just want to ask Ron one thing, if I could. So this sliding scale on 3, and I apologize, it's probably there because you are very thorough. But does the sliding scale then start at 5 feet? I wasn't sure where the sliding scale is. So if
Yes,
Okay,
it would start at 5 feet, but that 5 feet could be adjusted. The town of Chevy Chase, for example, says if the building starts at 12 feet or taller, it's 7 feet. If it's 12 feet or under, it starts at 5 feet. So you could have a different starting spot for your sliding scale as well.
that's height, but what if in terms of dimension, you know?
some
Yeah.
setback,
You could say the same thing for width.
okay,
I see Gina's hand up, and there's
Yeah.
probably a resident
This
in
is
the.
just it's for resident comments, right?
yeah.
We're just introducing. We're not.
Yeah, we're introducing
And there
now,
will
so
be a
we
public
have,
hearing on this.
we have a motion to introduce.
Yes.
We have a second.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a second. I vote to introduce.
As
Okay.
it is written now in the draft.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Good,
Okay.
okay,
Thank you for.
and then,
And so now there is a 30-day, will it be the next meeting that
Yeah.
there would be a potential? vote?
There is 30 days between now and the next meeting, so we could potentially hold a public hearing and vote on it at the next meeting. We could decide if we want to put it on the agenda then, or whether we want to push it to July. The thing with July is there'll
Public
be,
Hearing and have the vote at a later time.
that's
as
true,
well.
yes.
yeah,
The one thing I just want to put on the table as a part of this, I know that we are looking to contract with a new technical engineer. And just out of curiosity, again, with all the thoughtfulness that Ron, you put into this, and this is not the only ADU amendment that you're working on. There are others that you're working on or providing input, but will we have an opportunity for a technical engineer to be able to also provide guidance on this between now and the next council meeting? If not.
Absolutely. I mean, if I understand correctly, there's someone you have in mind, right? And if that person is retained, sure, absolutely, they can chime in on this.
Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
okay. We next have an item to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting, April 16th. That was in your packet, was sent out a week or so ago. I read it over, it looked good. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? And
I second.
second it, and we vote. Good. And
Wow.
then managers report. Mr. Suleiman.
Okay, hold on, let me get there. I am on page 20 in your packet,
Yes.
and it's 901. I have a long list here for you, so hang tight.
Okay.
I hope everyone purchased some tacos to hold themselves over for this long meeting. We had our second food truck in a row out front. They were very good tacos. And next month we have barbecue coming for the June 18th meeting. So look out for that. And we
Michael, can you hear me can I raise a question? I've had my hand raised for a while. Can I say something while
Go
you're
ahead.
looking for the
Yeah.
paper?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems we currently have in Martin's Additions with parking, street access, passage for normal cars, emergency vehicles in particular, the trash trucks, etc., is we don't use the enforcement capabilities we have. So if Arthur, did you want to say something? Or you want me
No,
to
I was just
okay.
commenting,
Well, can I finish?
winking at our village manager.
What?
I was just signaling to our, this has been on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so I can finish what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
I think it's important when we start talking about introducing additional concentration of housing in the community that's going to bring in additional cars, driveways, parking requirements. We need to also include in there questions of our ability to enforce, our ability, willingness. We have the power, but we don't do it. So I think it's very, very important.
Right.
So
I
we're going to
totally
allow.
agree with you,
Wait, but then would you please include that in the future conversations about loosening up the building requirements so that when somebody's parked across my curb, or I can't get out of my driveway, or I can't back up because they're parked on both sides of the street, that there's some mechanism for stopping that. Because if nothing else, I don't matter, but you know what? Emergency vehicles matter. And if they can't get through and they can't get to, we're really not serving our residents well. Okay. Just add that to the, thank you very much. Always my pleasure. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
What's that?
I echo your concerns regarding the safety issues.
Okay, where were we?
We're in the middle of the
go ahead.
I don't know where that parking conversation came from, but
there's a hand.
Okay, so I'm on point number 2, and that is that I have the honor of introducing our first intern here, Holden. Introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Holden. I'm interning here at the village office. Today's my 4th day of work, and I'm excited for the rest that's to come.
Where'd you go to school? What grade are you in?
I go to St. Andrew's Episcopal School in my senior year. This internship is a part of the last project of our school where we do a 13-day internship.
Welcome to the democratic process.
Thank you. Glad to see you.
Nice to have you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you're getting to witness this meeting with the budget. Yeah, so that's
okay.
That's been
They're
really
not all this bad. Some are worse.
Most are worse. Proceed.
I happen to think this is a great meeting. Elections, budgets,
everything,
taxes, we got everything going on, and
managers' reports
and bunnies.
Yes, and the manager's report.
Yeah, the highlight of the night.
We'll get through it.
The third point on my manager's report here is the Brookville sidewalk. It's moving along slowly but surely. They had some delays this week, but don't worry, they're still on pace to finish block 4, which is the second block they're working on. We're working down on the 5 blocks. They'll be back on site tomorrow to try to finish that retaining wall and finish that block.
So no dinosaur teeth. This is not my.
We have found 0 bones of any kind so far. Hopefully we do not.
Any more writing on the sidewalks?
We have made a couple adjustments to try to stop that from happening. So far, We did put up an orange fence. There's more of a, before it was just like a caution tape and the kids were just lifting it up and walking under it. And we got them on video. We know who they are, or we know who some of they are. If some of the parents would like to help me identify their children, that would be great. So I'm avoiding that right now, and instead just trying to do preventative stuff going forward.
I don't think the orange tape will stop Arthur, but
yeah,
we have to look carefully. Sidewalk.
He's putting other people's names down. That's what he's doing.
So I put more of an orange fence there, and that seemed to have worked, at least for the last section that we poured. There was no names written in it. So please keep your kids away from that section, and we will keep trying. That's moving forward. They'll be back tomorrow. Last week's project of painting the curbs in front of fire hydrants, as the council directed us to do a month or two ago, seemed successful. I've heard no negative complaints, which is rare. Normally, if you do anything, you get half the people loving it and half the people hating it. For once, we got no word is good news as far as I'm concerned. Has the council heard any feedback?
I heard one at the celebration on the sidewalk. I got one positive comment by somebody who had a negative comment on the previous striping.
Okay. Oh yeah. The other part of that project was we repainted the speed bumps that we installed last year on Turner Lane, and everyone seems to like that. People had a little bit of worry about what are you doing? Why are you doing more things on my street? And it's like, no, we're just correcting what was done before. And now it matches. It almost matches. For some reason, every speed bump we've installed slightly differently. So it doesn't seem like we have consistency, but it's as close to matching as we can get it. So that seems good. Now I have two RFPs that have been posted for over a month. They've been posted on the state website. They've been posted on our website. We have hired a consultant to help me reach out to companies. We reached out to over 20 companies for both of these contracts. We received multiple bids for both of these contracts. So these are competitive bids, and I have a recommendation in front of you. For the council here in the office, you will see two separate packets, one for waste management and one for Davey Tree Experts for our arborist and tree care. And if you're online, you will see these attached as more to the packet. If you click on more, you'll see both of these proposals linked. So we're being completely transparent. Everyone can read these and review these and see how much they cost. So I am asking tonight for a vote from the council to approve these contracts, as they are over $10,000. They're significantly over $10,000. This waste management contract, for example, is our biggest contract, and you can see the escalator. We did receive 4 bids for waste management services, and this was, in my opinion and our consultant's opinion, the by far the best one. It was the second cheapest, and the one that was cheaper was a kind of more of a junk removal company. That's a very small company, so we had some concerns that they would be able to carry out this level of service. So, and then the prices were comparable.
Awesome. Could you just give a quick up down on how do the prices compare to what we pay currently?
Waste management's contract is.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
just in terms of a ballpark of delta, is there a big increase or?
Yeah, no. Waste management contract goes up every year, and just like an inflation price. So that's basically what they did for this year too. So for FY27, it'll just be another adjustment similar from 25 to 26 to 27.
Okay, so nothing.
It's like a 10. It's like a 10 grand raise every year, ish. Don't quote me on that number, but yeah. So that was very in line with what we expected. And then the waste management one, if we want to take that one first, they're also. I met with them. They came in and met with me. And they are going to roll out an improvement to their service that they provide to the village as part of this new contract. And that is that residents will be able to report their own missed trash directly through a website to Waste Management. You can still report a missed trash to us, and then we can report it to them. But right now, we're kind of playing the middleman. Every time there's a missed collection, someone comes to us. And some
call up here, you have to call it.
And then I have to call them.
So it's not an improvement for residents, it's an improvement to the village.
Well,
it's also direct,
yes.
it's a direct line.
Yeah, no, it's good.
They can
How stressed out I am is an improvement for the village
It is.
residents. And it will also allow people to have an online platform that will tell them, okay, we got it. We give you a ticket number. The truck's coming tomorrow, and those types of things. It will also give the village office a report. They can run a report every so often to say, okay, 6 trash collections were missed this week. And then we can say, okay, that's a problem. That's too many. We're going to go through and figure out what's
I
going on.
thought you were gonna say that they're gonna grab the recycling bins as well. That would be super good.
Yeah, no, recycling, missed yard waste, any of those types of things you could report yourself.
So
and
there'll be a
get it.
link on the village website to that. To
Yes, we will. It'll be a
Prominent.
waste management site that is specifically made for Martin's Additions.
But the way they will get to it, either go there directly or link in through the
That's
village website.
Yep. And if people want to call us because they're not comfortable using the internet, those sorts of things, we can still fill it out for people's on people's behalf. So no problem.
Okay. Good.
Any other questions related?
So we want to approve this then.
Well, let me just ask one quick question. So unless my math is, I need to add another line item here. So it seems normatively it's going up 10 per year, 10,000. But let me just see, there may be another line item, but I'm seeing that the budget for 27 is 157. So that would be 22 increase. So I just want to get an understanding or why it's jumping 22 for some reason, and then normatively every year after is 10. So I'm not sure why.
Again, I said don't quote me on that 10, but
yeah, no. Anyway,
yeah, we didn't build any because we didn't have this proposal in front of us when we passed the budget and thought about the budget. So if that's the case, we could do a budget adjustment to make sure this aligns.
And we think that 22, that's reasonable.
that was more the question. It's not, I mean, why would we go from 157 to 179? If it's a normative increase, it looks like it should be under 170. So I just want to,
Maybe they can throw in the recycling bins that they can drag out to the curb.
It just that if you just get clarity on that, right? I mean, I don't know if you accept the bid as is, you may not be able to adjust it, but it seems warranting. Why would we be jumping that amount?
We left it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't have the answer for you. It's every 5 years that we do this, and so they come back. So this is the pricing they came up with, and this was it's 3-year contract with the option to extend 2 years. So if you turn to page 19 of the waste management packet, it has the per rate per year. So it does seem to increase about $10,000 a year going forward.
Well, this is what they're building in. This is what they're expecting price changes to be in the future.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we approved the budget with 157. We're not in danger of the idea that they're not going to collect trash. It's more of just understanding whatever the final contract may be. Maybe just ask a question. Why would we be jumping from 157 to 179?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if it's consistently 10 in the following years, that extra 10 is almost like
I should have come prepared with the last contract in front of me as well. I don't have that in front of me, so I don't.
I'm saying there's something to borrow. It would just be interesting.
Maybe they did the same
it's
thing.
possible we haven't updated the budget for 2 years.
They did the first with the contract. They go 20, and then each additional year 10. Maybe that's what they did.
Or they see what the actual price changes have been.
Because right now they're submitting this proposal and they're aware of what other people are charging, and they're just trying to be competitive with whoever else we're getting bids from.
That makes sense.
Inflation, gas prices.
That's what they think they can get from us, and they're right. So.
Well, if they don't, if
okay,
folks don't
so
get their trash collected, that will be the number. That's your number one.
That'll be costly.
Yeah. So do we have it sounds like we have a consensus to approve this.
Right. Yes, we have a
consensus. So this is the waste management. Ron, do I need an official vote on this one?
Yes, please.
Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I move that we accept the proposal to adopt Waste Management of Maryland as our waste collector.
Oh, should I? Okay, it's a big, okay, I'll do it.
Okay.
I second.
Aye.
Wait, you moved or you seconded?
Oh, wait, I thought he moved.
Oh, I moved. She
Oh,
said.
I
okay,
seconded.
okay, all
She
right.
wants to
Don't-
move, she
don't
wants to
get
move
heated
waste.
here.
Everyone wants to move waste.
Okay,
Everyone's in
Wow.
favor? Okay.
Yes.
okay, trees.
If you could just do that, get that
Wait,
clarified.
I will ask
Trees.
about it. Yeah.
Thanks.
And then the second one is trees. So we only got 2 bids for trees, and Mulherron Tree Experts was not one of them.
Oh,
That is our current contractor. I definitely spoke to them about it multiple times. I have emailed them multiple times, and they chose not to bid.
You said there were maybe personal issues.
There's definitely been a ton
the
of
household.
turnover
In the
with their
household.
staff and stuff, and the owner, Ed Mulherron, has not been seen or heard from in a while. So it sounds like something's going on there and they didn't bid.
Hmm.
The proposal I have in front of you today is Davy Tree Experts. They are the contractor that comes highly recommended from a number of our neighboring towns. They're a big company. They're all over the country.
They're all over.
The franchise here is in Gaithersburg, I believe, and they serve the village of Chevy Chase, for example. They come highly recommended and have very competitive bidding prices in this packet you'll see. They did come and meet with me. They walked the village with me and commented on trees and stuff. So they seem good and personable.
They even have a guy in the tree in front of Treasury.
Page 6 is their rates that are slightly different depending on what you're ordering, but it's kind of $300 an hour for their crew to come out.
And talk about the new trees, the private.
Yes, in this contract, I mentioned this before in a previous report, but I removed the tree planting from the same contract. So we're going to contract that out separately for the tree plantings, because we were finding that Mulherron Tree Experts at least was subcontracting that out to a subcontractor we did not like. So we didn't want to include it in the same contract anymore. And they were charging us about twice as much as what the other towns are being charged for their tree planting programs. And we found their quality of their work was
Terrible job.
We had trees dying sometimes multiple times in the same spot. So
Yeah, we had sadly a tree that didn't make it in front of our yard, and I would love to know the counterfactual if we had these folks who were working with us, but here we are. So,
right.
Okay.
Happy to replant your tree for you in the fall. We'll do another call, but we will be working directly with a nursery that sends out their arborists to plant the trees for us. So that's going to be an improvement, I hope, coming. So can I have a proposal or a motion and a second?
How do these rates compare to the prior, just so we know? Are they about comparable a little bit? Because
it's not quite comparing apples to apples, because the way Mulherron works is they come and bid for each job.
Understood.
And then these guys charge me by hour. So I told them, if you take 1 million hours, then you can charge me $1 an hour and I'm not going to be happy with it. But if you're fast and do good work, then the $300 hours.
Because we've got 40 for tree maintenance and 35 for tree planting. So roughly that's enough for the
moving on.
You don't need to.
I believe this will end up being cheaper than Mulherron.
Okay, that's all I need.
Because, like, for example, your next door neighbor had a branch that was taken down and they charged us $250 to remove that one branch.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thanks.
So I actually think this will end up being cheaper, but I don't want to be held to that. Yeah. If they take 1 million hours, then it won't be cheaper. But
okay. Did we approve this?
I recommend that we approve the Davy Tree Service.
Good. You want to second that? Wow. Okay. We'll vote for. Okay. Then next.
Okay, moving on. The celebration on the sidewalk event, as you heard earlier, went really well. Thank you all for coming out. That was a great event. Did the council receive any feedback on here? Hear anything? Think of anything? See anything?
It just seemed to be a lot more people this time. That's what I thought. But what would you say?
A lot more children than I've seen.
Yeah, younger. That means younger families are coming out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Ice cream.
Yeah, the ice cream. Well, and the neighborhood is changing. I do think we've noticed that.
Yeah.
Lots of kids.
Yeah.
That's
good.
Good.
Hopefully they don't all write their name in the sidewalk.
They're supposed to.
That's what I said.
Yes.
what kids do
In
we?
June, I just wanted to mention, we will be passing an FY26 budget amendment, just in case if we went over in any categories. I think it's going to be minimal, but there might be a couple adjustments that we'll do at the June 18th meeting.
Good.
We'll also be issuing our annual report. Arthur's queued up to help me with that this year, and we also have an intern that's going to help. So that's
You're gonna have
very
to
exciting.
remind me again.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
And then we have our volunteer appreciation event now scheduled. So for all the volunteers for the village, please mark June 6th. That's a Saturday, and we're going to confirm the time and send you a little invite as well. That's coming soon. And then the last thing of the fiscal year would be the June 28th, 4th of July celebration. The annual shredding event is scheduled for June 7th as well. And tomorrow is my last class for Leadership Montgomery. It's been a year already. I can't believe it. Thank you to the council for supporting me in my professional development over this last year. It's been a very interesting program. I have toured Annapolis, met with the governor and his team. I have toured the Montgomery County Jail. I have gone to the which was quite an experience. The Fire, EMS, and Police Training Academy. I have met with the Montgomery County History Museum. It's been fascinating. I'm meeting with executives from all different sectors. So there's bankers and police officers and people at the county level. So it's been fascinating.
Awesome. So it sounds like you feel developed.
You look developed.
And leadery.
And then the last thing is the building administrator report, or the interim building permanent administrator, which is me, is attached to the back of your packet. And the bottom two are brand new on there. 7202 Delfield Street has applied for a driveway and a standalone garage in the back of their property. I'm reviewing that right now with Ron. And then the 3512 Bradley Lane just came online. They just submitted an application for an addition. So I have barely even looked at that one yet, but that is on my plate.
Do you want to talk about the new building administrator? Or do that as a personnel issue?
That is a personnel issue that we will do in closed session.
Right. Okay.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
And I think we are nearing the end. Last chance to hear from residents. I see 3 residents there. Elizabeth has her hand up. Is that Marty has her hand up too? Okay, Elizabeth, please.
Okay. Question on the proposal for the arborist tree care services. I just wanted to know if it doesn't say explicitly in there that there would be any treatment for diseased trees. In other words, a type of inspection for other than pruning and trimming and planting. Whether the care, in other words, if you find something, if there's a pest, some kind of insect that comes through and it's attacking trees, is it envisioned that they would also treat the trees?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is my expectation. I will clarify that with them, though.
Okay, I think that was something that came out of conversations with the Stormwater Task Force. Also, some of the residents were asking, and about the tree care.
There is a line on that says includes pests and disease management. Is that?
Oh, does it?
Yeah, the 4th.
On an hourly rate, but I just want to point that out. We don't know perhaps what type of fertilizers they may be using. So
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And there's,
great.
plant health care, utilize targeted treatments to manage pest, disease, and soil conditions. Yeah.
That's in the RFP. Yeah.
No, that's in their response.
In their proposal on
okay.
page 6.
Okay, all right. I didn't see that. Okay, thanks. That answers my question.
That's it. Okay, thank you. Okay, Marty.
Yes, thank you very much. Good meeting, lots of good information. Got lots done. I also have a question about trees, which is, we talked before, some council meetings back, about being more efficient about managing the village trees by doing like a spring and fall walkthrough, or even a quarterly walkthrough, and consolidating the jobs so that they're not coming here for an hour or two and then coming back the next day for an hour or two, but that actually, in other words, better organized, which is one way to make it more efficient and hopefully save some money. Is that in here, Michael? Are you envisioning working with them to actually?
I've
do
actually
this?
already implemented that, and I will continue to implement it. So Jean just dropped off the call, or she would tell you. I actually just had them prune every tree down Shepherd Street because I was getting these little complaints for cosmetic things or suckers. So I told them, well, Heron, can you just do the entire street? Just go down the entire street and do them all at once. And they did it. So Shepherd Street is done, and Turner Lane is next on my list. I've already requested they do it for Turner Lane, just elevating above the sidewalk and those types of, cosmetic things more than, major tree issues.
Yeah, that's great. To consolidate it that way is so much more efficient and gives you more of a managerial handle on what's being done and what still needs to be done. So that's great. On the election,
doesn't it always seem Turner is like last to get these things? I'm not sure.
You're not last. No, you're not. I think Sutter is actually last. But anyway.
Got 2 council members on your street. I don't know.
Yeah, really.
You're not getting the love.
There will be
We'll have 3
unnecessary
next year.
speed bumps.
Okay,
The second thing I wanted to ask about was community input on, throughout the whole stormwater issues. Can we please go back, Jeff? You did some nice community forums back in the day. I think that's an idea that really might have some good application here in terms of community involvement. I'm concerned that we do educate the community about what all the people on the uphill side of the hill can do. This is not just flooding, it's not just a problem for people on the downhill side. And I think that work of building a community consensus that we're all in this, fixing this problem together, is really an important upfront piece of the stormwater projects, plural. You have the 10 specific, gray projects, but I really want to just focus on the fact that that's real work to build that kind of community consensus. And it takes asking people what they think, not just telling them something after the fact, but getting their input. And I know this dynamic, but I just want to put it on the table that I think is going to be really crucial to making the flooding problems better, because we need to have people's buy-in. And
good point.
thank you for doing whatever you can to do that.
Good points, Marty.
Does anyone else from the audience did you have any comments, or you don't have to, not to put you on the spot?
It's fascinated. I'm Julie Yang. It's
Yeah.
fascinated to hear your meeting. So many important things jamming, and you're doing it in such an effective way. And I
Yes.
wish our meeting can be
You-
run.
Well, welcome.
You haven't been to our midnight classics, but yeah.
Welcome. Thank you.
Before you adjourn, I know you
Yeah.
usually go. I did have one comment I wanted to make before adjourning.
Go ahead.
Are you
We're
sure
at that point now. Yeah.
I want to defer anyone else.
No,
I just want to put out, since we're still in this open, public meeting, I do want to just make one comment on the ADU for consideration. I want to point out, we have at the moment how it's written, at least 2 spaces. And I mean, I just, at surface level, when I look at that seems like a very high bar. And then this idea of a parking study. I just want to put out, it does seem reasonable with some idea that there is a possibility of a parking spot, whether or not a study is required, and then the idea that the council could, with an application by whoever it is, we could always waive the requirement for the parking spot. But I feel like the idea, we need to have some bar there that is in place that is at least a modest checkpoint on if there is all of a sudden over several years, a wave of developers or investment banks. And these are, if you follow the news and track it, there are a lot of investment banks in Wall Street who are buying up single family homes. And frankly, we are one of those neighborhoods that are targeted for that. And if that's the case, you may see more of these ADUs in ways that developers will want to see this. And so I just want to put out, but also balancing what Arthur and others have seen is the idea we have families coming in, they have their parents, they have others that they may want to have on their property. I don't think we want to create a restriction of that has a family owner who wants to bring their family together, that it becomes untenable for them. But, in that case, it could easily be waived or something. But I feel we need something, but we don't need something that's so far on the scale that it looks like we are against this, but something that prevents folks taking advantage of it as well. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay.
If I could just add to Jeff's comment, the state law does in fact say if you have a parking requirement, you need to have a waiver process available.
Okay. So that way, whatever, if whatever folks decide, if that is the case, we have something in there, we can have something that provides that waiver process that would allow a council to say, yeah, you know what? This is too onerous for these folks. But if it's like someone building like a huge, what looks like this accessory dwelling that is a developer, and it may look like they have a number of folks there, then maybe we would look at that. Anyway, I'm just sharing that as a.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The president did sign an executive order beginning of the year
Yeah.
that would do, well, it's not really enforceable. You need the Congress to do this, but that would not allow these institutional investors to buy up.
It was in the back of my mind of that.
Yeah.
But
So
that
you're in good company with.
Okay. I think we've already had residents' comments at the end. We are near adjournment. And just to say, we are going into adjournment so that we can then go into closed session to hear legal advice.
We have to have a motion to enter closed session while we're still in open session.
Yes, we need to move. Say that again.
We're not moving to adjourn.
So it would be a motion to
go
enter
into closed session.
motion to enter closed session under the Open Meetings Act, Section 3506B, subparagraph 7, to obtain legal advice regarding building code interpretation and enforcement and a personnel matter. Is there a motion? Someone could say so moved.
Oh, you don't have to repeat that?
Boy, I wish I could have said that. It's right here in front of me. You so moved.
She did.
She did so move. Okay, second. Oh, okay, we are now moving into closed session.
I'm going to stop the recording and kick everyone out. Thank you very much for.
Thank you for coming by.
So you will be here till midnight.